Hi, I'm Tim Scott, and today I'm here to talk to you about how the elevation of the train line between Victoria Park and Beckenham will impact commercial real estate in those areas, and I'll point out the one area that I think will see the most benefit. Firstly, my experience tells me that town centres thrive on vibrancy. Anything that enhances vibrancy, be it green spaces, better accessibilities, or bustling pedestrian areas, all drive the success of commercial real estate in those areas. So with that in mind, here's a quick high-level overview of what the works are, but I'll get more in depth in the back half of the video. The crux of it is that in 2023, the state government began elevating a fair chunk of the train line between Victoria Park and Beckenham Station in the location showed yellow on the map, and building 5 new elevated train stations, 6 new overpasses where the rail goes over the existing roads to remove a level crossing, 630 car parking bays and 6 hectares of landscape public space underneath the train lines, featuring youth plazas, nature play areas, fitness parks, dog parks and more. While I will get more into detail about what's happening in Perth later in the video, there's an example on the East Coast that we can look at to show us what the outcome may be. Melbourne's similar project, colloquially known as Skyrail, was completed a few years ago in its southeastern suburbs. They raised 5 stations and 17 kilometres of line. Initially, the project faced strong opposition. Critics raised concerns about noise, aesthetics, and its effect on communities. However, looking at online forums discussing the impacts of the Skyrail in the year after opening, the overwhelming response seems to be positive. Using Google Earth, we can also see the immediate effects. If I zoom in on Carnegie Station in Melbourne, you can see from this perspective, it just looks like a standard railway crossing, as this image was taken before the works were done. However, the street view was taken after the works were done, and I think you'll agree that it looks much more attractive now. You can imagine how good this would have been for the local businesses with all the additional vibrancy and people in the area. So it's had a largely positive impact on the local community in Melbourne, but back to Perth now. Currently, much of the commercial zone land along Perth's train line is concentrated near the train station. And this makes sense. Train stations, they generate foot traffic and they attract businesses. However, the areas of the train line between the stations haven't been ideal for development, as that area facing a rail line, it's not vibrant, it's not appealing, and it's certainly not pedestrian friendly. By elevating the train line and replacing it with parkland and public spaces, the entire corridor becomes a more attractive place to be. Businesses located near these transformed spaces are likely to see an increased foot traffic and greater appeal, leading to stronger property values and more opportunities for commercial success. So, as promised, let's take a look at some of the impacts of this project on specific pockets of commercial real estate. We can use Google Earth to get an overview, however, the images are slightly old as the works haven't been undertaken as yet on here, whereas in real life they are actually well underway. For this journey from the southeastern suburbs back towards the Perth CBD, we start at Beckenham Station, which is being elevated. Here the new rail line will rise up over William Street, reducing congestion and improving kids' ability to get to the local primary school. There's not that much commercial zone land in this area, predominantly over here, but the area will see benefits from the reduction of congestion as William Street can get very banked up. Moving on through to the Cannington precinct, where this train station is also being elevated. So on the northern side of the train line over here, you'll likely see the maximum benefits as there's only a small street to cross over to the commercial properties, whereas for pedestrians coming from the southern side, there's a major 4-lane road here, which decreases the likelihood for pedestrians to cross it. Up around Queen's Park is where I think you'll start to see a real increase in the vibrancy, as there's 2 overpasses being built in quick succession around the station, the Wharf Street and Hamilton Street crossings, and the station itself is also being elevated. This area has more of a town centre uses that will benefit, so there's an IGA, some strip shops, some development sites on both sides of the track that will benefit from the ease of access and additional car parking in the area. Moving on closer to the city through the Welshpool area, you're not going to see that much change here as there's no real benefit to elevating the train line, so they didn't. And in order to keep costs low, they actually removed the Welshpool station because of low patronage. So they are raising the train line over the Welshpool Road, which will improve industrial traffic in the area. Again, moving closer to the Oat Street precinct, where they're raising the station and making an overpass over Oat Street, there's very limited amount of commercial property in this precinct. So there's a couple of small commercial lots over here and some childcares. But the main thing will be the congestion busting as Oat Street gets quite banked up and down these feeder roads too. Moving on, I think one of the areas that is going to see one of the biggest uplifts is around the Carlisle precinct. You've got a number of commercial zone properties here which are definitely underutilised and underdeveloped, such as the Carlisle Hotel and these ones. There's also no big 4-lane roads or anything like that to impede pedestrian traffic, and so you should see a lot of benefit here. Here's a couple of recent photos of the works that are happening in this Carlisle precinct. So I think this area around Carlisle is going to see some of the most significant uplift as it has the highest local residential prices, it's closest to the city, and it's primed for further gentrification and development of town centre uses around this train station. This area is also one that will see some of the most significant changes as it is an area of rezoning under the Town of Vic Park's new local planning scheme that will come into effect soon. The final thing is that we're going to likely see a lot of spot rezonings or adaptive reuse in areas that were not pedestrian friendly and now are, as the additional people in the area may turn the highest and best use over from residential to commercial. If Melbourne Skyrail is anything to go by, Perth's elevated train line is set to be a game changer, creating not just a better transport system, but more profitable, vibrant town centres.